Yeah, so you have U.S. policy that is, you have Americans and you have U.S. policy that's talking about how, the migrants and the asylum seekers, the refugees that are coming here to this country, that they're invaders, that they're coming to this land, but yet the United States has been destroying Central American countries and Latin American countries for decades. The United States has been involved in interventions and coups and supporting right-wing militias that have destroyed the home countries of a lot of these refugees and asylum seekers that are coming to this country. So people are always talking about that we need to close our borders, that we need to that people need to respect the law, but yet the United States doesn't respect the sovereignty of other countries. It imposes U.S. policy on these countries in Central America and Latin America for its own means, its own exploitation. So what the United States has to do, if a lot of these Americans don't want asylum seekers or refugees to come to this country, then it's time that the U.S. leaves Central American countries and Latin American countries for their own self-determination. Stop imposing our policy on their countries. Stop propping up right-wing governments that are exploiting its people. No. Yeah. So you have with Reagan, with the CIA, with these multinational corporations, right? With the CIA, how you have them wanting to exploit these countries because these countries want to provide. These are countries that are have plenty of resources, right? But these resources are being extracted and being used for the benefit of U.S. corporations, whereas when you have leaders and communities within these Central American countries, Latin American countries, that want to use these resources to benefit their own people, that they end up either nationalizing all the oil or the resources, the minerals, and they want to. So whenever they want to use these resources to benefit their own people, then the United States gets a step these are our, somehow they're our resources that are there in Central American countries. No, those resources belong to those countries and should benefit those people. They shouldn't be benefiting rich multinational corporations. Yeah, Democrats and Republicans, when it comes to foreign policy, then they're both falling in line, right? That they're about this. It's the same party when it comes to foreign policy, and that's to exploit other nations for the benefit of the United States government, for the benefit of politicians, for the benefit of corporations, to exploit and extract, right? Exploit and extract other countries for the benefit of U.S. corporations. Do I feel a difference? Yes. I think Bernie Sanders is speaking and talking about what the needs are of the people. Right? You have people that want free health care, they want free education, right? You have these driving forces, like for myself, being a veteran of the Iraq War, I joined the military out of purely economic necessity. Whereas if I had free health care and I had free education, then the initiative or the reasoning to join the military wouldn't have been there, because I would have already had what I needed. So rather than, so you have Bernie Sanders, you have politicians that are talking about we need free health care, we need taxpayer-funded colleges where we don't have to take out loans. But if they do that, the one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is if they do that, then now the main driving force for what drives poor, brown, black, people into the military won't be there no more, right? This last year, the Army met its recruiting standards by exploiting the fears of youth that they were going to be in college debt, right? They were going to fall into college debt, so they end up joining the military as a result of that, right? So if we have taxpayer-funded college and we have free health care, then the driving force wouldn't be there, right? I wouldn't, and other people wouldn't join the military because we already had that need.
Is there anything we haven't talked about that you feel is important for viewers to know, people who are watching? Maybe like, have you been down to Mexico or Central America? Have you seen the militarization of the border?
Yeah, so I had a chance to go to Tornillo, to go to where they had where it was for children, right? It was a prison it was a camp for children, and you see them like behind this barbed wire, behind this fencing, and they're there and they're staying in tents, and it's inhumane, right? These are children that are separated from their families, that are crying themselves to sleep, that are living within. Could be, it's unimaginable what these kids are thinking about, right? I've been to Chile, where in Santiago you have an entire people that are rising up against this government that's funded by the U.S. government. So, yeah, I don't know what to say.
Do you have any fears about the Donald Trump, Biden potentially in office?
I mean, Trump staying in office is just going to continue hurting our people even more, and Biden is just a return to the status quo, and that's there's nothing wrong with us demanding what is rightfully ours, and we should be demanding more than the status quo.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, no, this is great. Thank you. So if you're watching, please leave us a comment, share. We are here in San Antonio, Texas. This is the Alamo. And we're on a march right now with protesters. We started at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, where they are holding a border security expo featuring the latest technologies on how to militarize the border and manage immigration. I say manage because you can never really stop. People have been migrating since forever. As long as there have been people on this earth, people have been migrating. So San Antonio, Texas, where we are right now, is majority Latino. And we have various groups here. There's, we heard from 2 members of About Face, which is formerly Iraq Veterans Against the War. We have activists from MOVE. The Brown Berets are here as well. And a number of other groups, Southwest Workers Union. And so what they're chanting is, "This is our people's ground. You cannot kick us out.
You cannot keep us out. You cannot keep us out. Justice! No! Justice! No! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! El que no camina migra. El que no camina migra. El que no camina migra. El que no brinca 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 migra.
Can you translate that for us?
Whoever doesn't jump is a pig.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here.
I don't know if you can see this, but the cops are trying to force people into a certain area.
It's blood money!
With their bicycles.
Blood money.
Why? It's literally right there.
Why?
Because it's part of the Alamo, and Alamo security is in charge of it, and they're not allowed to protest here.
Alamo security stops right there. We hold ceremony 4 times a year right there.
We was out last week telling people the same
We
thing.
hold
It's not just you.
ceremony 4 times a year
Alright.
here.
The Alamo
We know
Rangers
this
are
is
the ones in charge of it.
no, they're not. This is not their doing. This is not their land. This does not belong to them. This is city property. You're stepping on my shoe. You're stepping on my shoe, and it hurts. I was here first. No, you cannot force anything with me. I am a San Antonio. I'm a resident here. I can stand wherever I wish. How's all? You're not allowed to weaponize your little bicycle to move me along. You are not an enforcement like that. Well, you are using it like a weapon. You can't do this.
Our streets!
Our streets!
Our streets!
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Whose streets? 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 Our streets! Who do you protect? Who do you serve? 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 Who do you protect? Who do you serve?
Do what you do best, man. Violence, yep. Resort to violence. It's the main issue.
Freedom of assembly. Freedom of speech. Keeping you all able to protect yourselves. You're the ones who are here. Then why are they not here asking?
We can be seen over there. We're seen here.
Y'all were cool a little while ago until they said something. Like everything was cool. We were real peaceful.
All we do is ask you to move forward. That's all it is.
But we're not doing it.
Seen here, though.
Do you have the city ordinance that says where the boundaries are? Is there,
Not on me, ma'am.
do they have it? I mean, because this is, because it's really unnecessary. Like all of this, we've been peaceful all day. Y'all been watching us. We haven't done anything. You know, we're just trying to stand here.
Complain?
No, it was the Alamo Dome.
Oh, I thought it was
not the Alamo
tourist
Dome, the
over
Alamo
there.
guys. Yeah. It was the old guy with the red face.
Ice! 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 La migra, migra, migra! La migra, migra, migra! Justice!
Look at the eyes in that camera. Right there. There you go. Nothing but hate behind those eyes.
Oh yeah, he just grabbed him by the neck and like.
I got hit. Your children like that too? I bet you do, don't you?
Stop abusing people daily, SAPD!
Yes.
Stop abusing
Stop
people
abusing
daily,
people daily.
SAPD!
So can you tell us what happened?
I just came over here. I was videoing and just taking a quick picture and some videos. And then this gentleman over there, 32, 29, 26 badge number, assaulted me and grabbed me by the neck and shoulder and forced me over here on this side. But, I mean, look behind his eyes. You can just see. That guy right there.
Are we not allowed to go to?
No, apparently we're not. We're supposed to. They keep on pushing this back and back more and more.
They're not even fronting right, guys. Is this yours?
No, it's mine.
Funny how they could tell us where to walk when this was our own land, right?
Exactly. It's all about control, abusing their authority.
Can I just get a little call real quick? Yeah.
Yep. They ain't shit without the badge. No, I
So if you just tuned in, we are live in San Antonio, Texas. We're here at the Alamo on a march which started at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, which was the site of this year's Border Security Expo, which is featuring the latest technology to militarize the border. On Friday the 13th, there is going to be a sharpshooter training, you heard that correctly, in Bandera, Texas. So protesters gathered at the convention center. There was a rally and a press conference and a march, and we've landed here at the Alamo. There are people, the brown berets are here. We have MOVE Texas, About Face, formerly Iraq Veterans Against the War, and we talked to 3 members from About Face about the role of the United States in Central America, which has a history of military coups, interference in economies, pushing neoliberalism. And what they all said was that the role of U.S. foreign policy has a direct result in the refugee crisis that's happening now, of people fleeing from Central America, and will continue as long as our U.S. as long as our foreign policies push the privatization of the economies and neoliberalism and right-wing governments.
Down with deportation. Up with immigration. 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 Down with deportation.
You ready? Okay. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what group you're with?
I am Savannah Jaime, and I'm actually not with, I'm not sure what this group is, but I heard that they were protesting a really great cause, so I decided to join in.
Do you live in San Antonio? What's your experience been like today?
I've been born and raised in San Antonio. I'm actually a raspa vendor here at the Alamo. That's how I saw you guys.
Can you tell people what a raspa is for people who don't know?
Yes, a raspa is shaved ice with a sugary syrup dripped on top. And us Mexicanos, we love to put chamoy, pickle juice, all that good stuff.
Orale.
Yeah.
So why did you feel like it was important to come to the rally and to join the march?
Well, I've always supported this cause. You know, my family's from Mexico, so it's always hit home for me whenever I've seen, you know, the shelters that our people have been held in, the terrible things that people have done to our people, you know, that our country has done to our people, and how, you know, us, you people like me, you know, second generations, who I'm so thankful to be a citizen. I have the opportunity to fight for these people, for my people, and yeah, that's what I wanted to do today. So.
And so do you have family still in Mexico?
Yes, so most of my family is from Mazatlan, Sinaloa. I sell raspas with my abuelita, who's from Mazatlan, and it's pretty cool.
And did you vote? Do you have a candidate you like? You don't have to answer.
So I'm actually 17, so I can't vote yet, but I will be voting for Bernie in November if he's, you know, there.
And can you tell people who are watching why Bernie?
Because Bernie will fight for free healthcare whenever you can't afford medicine. Bernie fights for free education, which not all of us have the opportunity to get an education like that. Honestly, Bernie just gives a shit. I don't know if I can say that, but he just gives a shit, and a lot of people don't.
You can say that.
Okay, good.
What are your thoughts about Joe Biden?
Joe Biden, you know, I'd rather have Joe Biden in office than Trump, but I'd rather have Bernie than Joe Biden. So, in all honesty, he's not my favorite, but like I said, way better than Trump. So,
Well, do you have any thoughts about AMLO, the president of Mexico? AMLO?
I haven't done enough research on that yet. No, I haven't.
Is there anything that you want to tell people who are watching? Anything you feel like people should know?
Yes. Whenever you see somebody who can't fight and who doesn't have the privilege that you do, go out there and fight for them, because they deserve that. We all deserve that. We all deserve to be equal. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Border walls have got to go. 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 Border walls have got to go.
How do you turn this camera around?
Border walls have got to go. Border walls have got to go. Border walls have got to go. Border walls have got to go.
No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here.
No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No fear. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here.
Can you introduce yourself, please, and tell us, are you with the group or on your own, or why did you feel it was important to come out here today?
Well, I've been an activist for over 30 years here in San Antonio, and achieved getting Indigenous Peoples Day recognized through our city and our county. And we've had over 500 years of colonialism, which is, I am native, I am Pamake. My people were enslaved and forced to build this here. My ancestors are buried here. So we're not all immigrants. We're indigenous. What happens is our right of migration, our human right of migration, is denied and violated by this government, by the Mexican government, by all the governments in Central and South America, and that's what I fight for.
And I imagine that you believe in no borders, maybe even no nations.
They're just chanting this. I made this sign about 15 years ago. That's how long I've been doing it.
And how do you feel about being here today, having the police tell you that you can't stand where you want to stand, being at the Border Security Expo, hearing that they're using this technology to militarize the border and force, immigrants, preventing immigrants from moving?
I infiltrated the first conference they had here 5 years ago on border security and saw all their technology and opposed it then and opposed it today. Our city, again, it's a convention center, so they can have their conventions because of capitalism, right? But we oppose it. And this here, again, is a conjunction between the city and state of selling, because before we used to be able to be here and only crossing onto the actual Alamo when the Daughters of the Texas Republic had it. But now that the land office has it, and I saw the CEO of the Alamo Trust cross and go over there. He's the one that got them instigated to stopping it, right? Because no action had been taken until he came. We've opposed that. I've attended meetings with the Historical Commission, with the city, with the county, and we continue to oppose what they keep doing it. I do it in meetings more than I do it out here. I'm here today because I went to City Council last Wednesday, and this group was there when I was speaking, and I joined them, and I told them that I would be here today with them.
And can you describe, you said that you infiltrated, so I imagine that you went inside the Border Security Expo. Can you describe what you saw there?
5 years ago, they were renovating the convention center. They were tearing some down, and so we went in to oppose that and came in through the back door where they were setting up the exhibitions. So we saw the drones, we saw the tanks, we saw their software that they use for their sensors, for their equipment to pick up movement, light, body heat, all this they have on the border, which some of it is Israeli technology that they use against the Palestinians. And so all this is being imported here, is being used on our border for 5 years now. And that's why you have people dying in such large numbers now. And we oppose it because it's a human rights violation.
As an indigenous person who has been here for generations, seeing that, how did that make you feel?
Very angry. Very angry because our people shouldn't be dying anymore. We're supposed to be in an enlightened age, right? We were supposed to be the savages. My ancestors were supposed to be the savages. And the Europeans coming over here were supposed to be the civilized. Well, they're still not civilized. Our people are still dying.
Is there anything that you want to say to people who are watching, anything that you feel people should know that is important for people to know?
Well, for one thing, get us straight, we're not immigrants. We're indigenous people with a human right of migration, and it's being violated by all these governments. Yes, we welcome immigrants. We want everybody treated humanely, but we also want ourselves that have the right to migrate treated humanely and given that right to migrate as we please because it's our land.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so we have somebody who, here, let me stand here just because like the lighting, so my camera can, we have somebody who went inside today to the Border Security Expo. If you feel comfortable telling us your name, if you're part of a group or you came on your own.
My name's Justin Lasea. I organize with DSA, Poor People's Campaign, SA Stands, just a number of different organizations. Sorry.
Hold on one sec. Let me adjust this. Sorry. This is, I'm a one woman show. Okay. Can you tell us what you saw inside?
It was just commercialization of military hardware, mostly sensors, artificial intelligence technology in order to identify people just from cameras, a lot of drone hardware, anti-drone hardware, portable like pop-up stations for scanning for people, radar technology, mostly for detecting people. There was one company that we were talking to their vendors, and one of the vendors we actually saw he had a swastika tattoo. He had a swastika on one side and a Spartan helm on the other, just barely visible under his shirt. But yeah, it is all just commercialization of military grade hardware.
Yeah, I heard when I was walking up, somebody told me that people had gone inside and saw a man with a swastika tattoo. I noticed when you were talking, you said all of this technology is to stop people, not quote unquote drugs or quote unquote terrorists like we're being told. Can you expand on that?
Well, I mean, they don't specify like who it's for because it can be used for anybody. And I mean, most of it's the same technology that scientists use for like capturing wildlife, and that's kind of how they treat it, is, you know, motion sensing cameras, so that like if somebody's in the area, it'll start capturing. So they can just leave it out in the desert, forget about it, and just, you know, come along later and track where people have been, you know, and find bodies, because that's how the deterrence is now, is push people away from official checkpoints so they try and cross in the middle of the desert and just clean up afterwards, after, you know, they've died from 115 degree heat, you know.
Have you been to the border?
I have not recently. The last time that I was close was at the Carrizo Springs protest that went to go, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great protest. A lot of really radical voices.
Oh, yeah.
Are you from San Antonio, from the area?
Originally, no. I've been here for about 8 or 9 years. Originally, I'm from Flint. I came down here just because jobs, work, in the last economic collapse. So.
And I know I heard you mention DSA. Can you talk about your experience with DSA? You know, hyper-capitalism and its role in the border. Is there a connection? And can you expand on that?
Of course. I mean, immigration, refugees, it's all connected to the broader capitalist nature of the world. I mean, all of this stuff now is going on because of all the interventions that America has had in South America, because we've treated it as our backyard for the past 100 and some odd years. All the people fleeing north. I mean, half of my family is originally from Mexico. So there's that. And now it's all because of climate change. You have all of these droughts, famines, whatnot, south of the border, you know, failed governments that are pushing people north. And, you know, now we're realizing the result of our border policy and our foreign policy for all those years. And now the U.S. government solution is to just put people in cages and to just fly them back en masse and just dump them. So, yeah.
Yep, I heard about that they were going to be sending people to El Salvador, which is the country that we participated in a coup, you know, in the past few decades. Do you have a candidate? Do you feel strongly about a candidate? And would you like to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Bernie or bust. You know, 100%. He, I think, is the last hope that we have for a democratic revolution, because otherwise, honestly, I don't have any hope for our country, because Biden's policies are effectively the same as Trump's policies. It's fascism either way, whether it's Republican, red, or blue Democratic fascism. It's the same corporate fascism. You know, the same companies that were in that expo serve the same government. The chairman of the expo was one of the deputies of the Border Patrol or ICE, I can't remember which, same difference, under Obama. He was appointed by Obama. So, you know, there isn't any difference between the two. Both of them are, all of our administrations are equally, accomplices to war crimes. So.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because we were talking about U.S. foreign policy in Central America earlier with some of the members from About Face, which is formerly Iraq Veterans Against the War. And I remember seeing a video with Evo Morales, and he spoke about how there wasn't really much difference between presidents in the U.S. who were Democrats or Republican with regards to foreign policy. He didn't see a difference in Central America.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, our political system has moved so far to the right that there really isn't any difference between either party. They both serve the same corporate overlords. I mean, when you had the whole scandal before as far as Joaquin, you know, tweeting out about Trump's donors, he had 6 of the same donors. You know, they don't, the mainstream media doesn't talk about it, but when it comes to both parties, they all have the same donors. I mean, there's a few that'll donate to one that won't donate to the other, but I'm sure like a large number of the companies that were at that expo are perfectly willing to serve no matter which administration. And, you know, the people that they deal with are all acquisitions bureaucrats. So, you know, it's cheap as bitter. You know, it doesn't matter whether or not this organization hires open fascists, basically. That's not dealt with in the bidding process. It's, oh, well, you know, this company name looks good and the price is good, so we'll deal with them. And the head of the company, who, you know, was a former, you know, employee or, you know, officer in the military, because that's how a lot of it works. I worked in DOD staffing, but all of the acquisitions, it's the same thing. You see these executives leave the companies and then they become consultants, or they form shell companies. They work for, you know, Lockheed, Boeing, whoever. They find some minority veteran, whoever, and they say, okay, go find or go start a small disadvantaged business, and we'll use you as a shell company. So 51% of the business is done through that company. The other 49% is done through Lockheed or whoever. And that's how they maintain just constant flow of small business acquisitions.
I.e. capital.
Yep, exactly.
Which, this is all very frightening, and I think many people don't know about it, and I'm so glad that you bring it up.
Yep.
Is there anything that you want people to know who are watching live right now?
Just, I mean, get out and participate, find out, you know, what groups are organizing near you, and talk to them, get involved, you know, whether it's an organization like DSA, About Face, just any group, you know, they're more than welcoming to anybody, you know. There's groups from Brown Berets, you know. Just find people and get active, and that's the important thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I really liked what he left us with, which was get involved in organizing, in, you know, community efforts. He mentioned DSA, he mentioned the Brown Berets. He said, find your people, get involved. Which I think is a really hopeful statement, considering I think a lot of people I'm hearing a lot of fear, you know, right now.
Break it all down, these walls between us. Break it all down, these walls. Break it all down.
Sure. I'm okay right now. Thank you. So, we have. Oh, okay. So we have my friend Fran. Fran is an activist. Many different causes, who was involved in Standing Rock. Fran, would you like to introduce yourself to people who are watching and why you felt it was important to be here today?
Yeah, very important to stand up and be in solidarity with our San Antonio community. It's outrageous that they would come into this largely Latina Hispanic community and think that they could parade Border Patrol agents around and bring in their conventions selling surveillance equipment and weapons. I mean, we were considering how traumatizing it would be to be someone from who possibly is undocumented, someone who's perhaps been in detention, and suddenly to have Border Patrol flooding the city. And we are just not in support of any of this. We're totally against the Remain in Mexico policy, which is migrant protection policy that actually the Supreme Court heard they heard arguments on Monday about lifting the injunction that several enlightened judges put on MPP. So we're at very critical times. I've been in Matamoros. The human suffering is incredible. They've gone from a handful of a few hundred people to thousands now at a camp, and putting desperate people, asylum seekers, at terrible risk of torture and kidnappings. And now what the government is doing right out of Brownsville, in fact, we found out they've been doing it since the Clinton era, they are deporting the most vulnerable. And on many, many reports that as soon as people are deported back to these other countries, they face death. So we are sending people to their death with this administration. There's so much against Border Patrol. We need to dismantle Border Patrol, which has been proven. It's a culture of cruelty, much abuse. I just read a horrific story about a young woman landing in Puerto Rico and being raped by 2 Border Patrol officers right there, and then they just thought they could get away with that. It's outrageous, the number of sexual abuse and hurt and harm, and of course putting the children in the cages and separating very young children from their parents. It's unthinkable what's gone on in the name of Border Patrol and ICE agents at Health and Human Services who see over the detaining of children and the youth. So we are standing up today in solidarity with all of the dreamers, all of the asylum seekers, anyone who's coming here, the desperate. We've always welcomed. We are a land of immigrants. This land is built on the backs of slaves, the indigenous and immigrants. So they're welcome here, and we're a very beautiful showing today of a coalition saying, no, we're not going to have you here in San Antonio. So we drove down, 3 of us drove down from Austin. We felt felt strongly enough to be here, to be in solidarity. And today I'm representing a Texas Organizing Project who let me know about it. So thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, and Fran, if you're comfortable talking about your mother, who was in an internment camp, and then also about your experience, what you've seen in Mexico, and I know you and I have both protested at the camps.
We have. So my mother is 86 years old. She went in when she was approximately 12 into a Japanese-American internment camp and was kept for 3 years. So traumatizing that now at her age she will not speak about it, and she's asked me not to talk about her personal story, so I respect that. I just do like people to know how traumatizing that was. It's 65 years later, and my own mother won't talk about this. There's a history in this country, starting from colonization and slavery and taking away the children from the indigenous, of traumatizing families, and my family is one of them. So in Mexico, Matamoros, and over the border in El Paso, people are so grateful for any help, any show of kindness. Many women with children running, many women who've escaping gangs, of course, being targeted, sexual abuse in their own countries, and they've come to our borders to asking for help, and they're turned away. There is a Asian who stands on the bridge right over the Rio Grande because, of course, the law is that if an asylum seeker steps foot on U.S. territory, it's within the law for them to ask for asylum and to have their cases heard. People come up, they wait for months to have a hearing, months and months and months, and it's just inhumane what's going on. We can't continue just blocking people at our borders. It's not humane. We need to abolish ICE. Definitely abolish Border Patrol. Definitely board them. They're a rogue agency who received an incredible amount of funding. Actually, an article I read by Rebecca, and this is under Obama's administration, and then they just indiscriminately hired handfuls of people with no screening whatsoever. We know that there are supremacists within the ranks, and they are hurting black and brown. They're hurting our black and brown brothers and sisters and very young women. So we ask for this.
Is there anything that you feel is important for people to know who are watching right now?
I think it's just important to stay focused on migrant protection protocols. This is the virtual wall that is at the border. So if you have any influence, or if you can just call 202-224-3121, that takes you to the Congress's switchboard, and you can appeal to your senators and your congressmen that we must repeal Remain in Mexico policy. It's inhumane. That's the main thing. Also, there's many organizations that are needing, they need bail money to help people out of detention. We have some of the most numerous detention centers here in Texas, and there's amazing groups at the border. I can't think of any right off the top of my head to give you the name of or their website, but we need bail for folks. So that's some way that you can help if you can't come to the border. Find a local organization. East Coast Immigrant Families on Facebook helps people bail. Race is definitely right here, who's one of the sponsors. And also, World Central Kitchen is now cooking in Matamoros, and they could use donations and volunteers to cook as well.
Great. Thank you, Fran, so much.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Si se puede.
Great. So, again, if you're watching, please like, please share, leave us a comment. We're coming to you from San Antonio, Texas. Right now, we are at the site of the Alamo. This is a protest that started at the Henry B. Gonzalez Center, which is a few blocks away from here. They are having a border security expo, which has all of the latest technologies like drone surveillance technology, motion sensor technology, and San Antonio is, it's called a compassionate city. It has that label associated with it. It is majority Hispanic, and so there's a coalition here. We have Raíces, we have About Face, which is the formerly Iraq Veterans Against the War. Move Texas is here. We spoke to somebody from DSA. The Brown Berets are here. A number of groups came out to protest. And so right now, in Spanish, people are chanting, we're here, we're not leaving. Aquí estamos y no los vamos. So again, if you're watching, please like, share, leave us a comment, share this in group pages. This is a protest against the Border Security Expo in San Antonio, Texas. And we heard from a number of really great organizers and activists here today. A couple had been inside. One went inside the Border Security Expo this year. Somebody else went inside 5 years ago, and they talked about what they saw. Apparently, there was somebody today inside the Border Security Expo with the tattoo of a swastika. And so this is protesters have gathered and to show their solidarity and support for immigrants, for indigenous people, and for all people's right to move and migrate. So again, thank you so much for watching, and please share.
When they say get back, we say fight back. When they say get back, we say fight back. 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 They say get back, we say fight back.
Get out late.
So it didn't really do that good, huh?